My name is Nicole Naditz. I am a program specialist for instructional technology and world languages in San Juan Unified School District. I taught French for 25 years before coming into this role in January of 2018. And I am really happy to be here today. My role actually sits in the curriculum department. So we look at, in my role, my TOSA and myself look at technology through a curriculum lens, but we work in very close partnership with our technology services team. And today we'll be talking about leading the way through engagement. So strategies that you can use in your meetings with staff, in your professional learning that you engage with staff, in order to model engagement strategies that practitioners can then turn around and use in their classrooms with their students. This is a pretty fast moving session, but it is being recorded. And in addition, you will have a link to the Pear Deck version of the slide deck if you are participating along with us. And you'll see at the end that there is a bit.ly as well, which will take you to just another copy of the slide deck if you prefer that. So either way, you'll get a copy of all of these slides. There are lots of linked resources within the slides. And a lot of what we'll be doing today is kind of modeling some strategies that you can use, and we'll do as many of them hands-on as we can. And I am posting again in the chat the link to join our interactive session so that you can engage in the activities we'll be doing. And the one thing to note, the caveat wise, is that you would probably never try to do so many activities, so to speak, all in a row. These would be things you would choose from. The things that you're going to see here today are going to include some things you've actually heard about. I would imagine every one of you here has used or heard of at least some of the things I'll be sharing today. And you would choose them because they offer the kind of interaction, connection, and information data back to you that you want or need from the meeting that you're having or from the professional learning that you are facilitating. So you wouldn't necessarily do all of these all at once. So the first thing we're going to do is, for those of you who are in the Pear Deck, if you look on your screen, I think it's in the lower right corner, but it may be somewhere else depending on your device. There is an answer question little box. Just tap on that or click on it depending on the device you're on. And you will be able to give one word of how you're feeling right now. I'm going to put the link to our session in the chat again. And I'm going to back up the screen one for those people who were not able to join the Pear Deck, because there is another way in and another way to participate. So again, if you're in the Pear Deck, go take a look at your Pear Deck and click where it says answer question. And you can actually type in individual words that kind of tell you how you're feeling. And for those of you who weren't able to join the Pear Deck, if you go to menti.com on your device and enter the code 16 65 62 7, you'll still be able to participate. And I'm just kind of calling it up right now so that I can see it. See how it's going, see if people are, oh, someone found the screen sharing annotation tools. So if you go to menti.com, if you're on Pear Deck with me, you can just click the answer question button. It will take you right to our Mentimeter. See, a couple of people have added words, and they're actually really positive words today. I like this. So again, if you go to menti.com, you can participate as well. And then put in the code 16 65 62 7. And if you joined our Pear Deck, and I'm going to repost the link to our Pear Deck one more time so that you'll have kind of one-click access to everything we are modeling and doing today, because it will all be accessible through the Pear Deck except for one item that doesn't embed correctly. There we go. We have a lot more people now. Thank you. If you just click where it says answer question in Pear Deck on this slide, it'll take you right to the screen where you can enter a word. And really nice. Okay, I have to say, I am really loving this group because you are sharing some of the most amazing words and kind of giving me hope for the direction in which we're all headed as we navigate this journey with distance learning. I'm going to ask you to do something that's sometimes hard for people. I'm going to ask you to find your way back to my Zoom screen. because the only way for you to see what I'm seeing is for you to come back to Zoom right now. So find your way back to Zoom and you'll see what's being produced from the words you've put in. It's been making a word cloud, and the largest word right now is interested, which I really like. Good. But what I'm noticing is that all of the words are positive and all of them have positive intentions. And I think all of us acknowledge that we're tired. Sometimes the situation makes us anxious or overwhelmed, but this is the first time I've done this activity since the pandemic started where those words haven't come up. So I just have to call out all these amazing people in the room who are feeling positive and essential and energized and interested and productive and inspired and excited. I really, really appreciate that. And I want to thank you again for participating in that activity with me. I'm going to go back into the Pear Deck right now. I'm going to post the link one more time in the chat. It looks like someone just joined us. And if you click this link, this will catch you up to exactly where we are in the presentation. And at the end of the session, it will give you your own presentation back. Okay. So what we need right now and what our teachers need are actually kind of the same thing, right? We as coordinators, TOSAs, and administrators need to be seen and heard. We all need to be valued and respected for the knowledge, expertise, and other gifts that are brought into this work. And we need to be supported to do the work. And there's a parallel there between what we need in the work that we do, which I think is very difficult work. It's very important work, but it's also very unseen work. I think the public thinks they know what teachers do. They're not always accurate there, but they think they know what teachers do. They really don't have an understanding of the role that others in the educational systems play and the work that we do and the kinds of things we're trying to put in place in order to really maximize student learning, maximize equitable outcomes for all of our learners, maximize engagement, maximize connections for our learners from what is truly behind the scenes, right? Our work is something that happens very much out of the eye of the public and so on. So I think it's really important that we also be seen and heard, but I think that it's harder for us to do so and to be valued and respected for what we bring. And because we need that, and because our teachers need that, we really want to include opportunities and experiences in the work that we are doing that will provide our teachers, our practitioners, with an opportunity to be seen and heard and valued and respected, and to give us information and insight and ideas and strategies that will allow us to support them in their work. And so there is a process that mirrors this is a kind of shorthand version of a well-designed learning experience, but this is in extreme shorthand right here. The first piece being, if you're having a meeting with staff, you're facilitating a professional learning opportunity with staff, you want to start with some kind of check-in that welcomes people into the space, recognizes them, honors who they are, gives them a chance to have a voice in that space, and if appropriate, re-engages them with whatever prior work, learning experiences, research, or whatever is going to prepare them for the work we are about to do now. That is similar to having teachers do that same thing when they welcome students into their space to prepare for the learning they are going to do. And then as in my case, I'm an administrator. As an administrator, when I'm getting ready to work with a group of people, I want to then chunk and check. I want to chunk my information. I want to chunk what I am going to present or say or share or do into logical and manageable bite-sized pieces. And then in between those pieces, I want to provide multiple opportunities to check in on my participants, to check in on my colleagues, to give them a chance to check for themselves kind of where they're at in this space and how well they are doing with the information or the concepts, whether or not they are understanding them, how well they can apply them to their own work before we move on to the next chunk in whatever our program is. So that's good lesson design for learners, but it's also good design for us as leaders in the work that we do, so that we're constantly, really maximizing what we know about how the brain works, breaking our content into digestible units, and then putting in some very strategically selected processing and checking for understanding activities and connecting activities and so on, so that the work really embeds before we just plow through and do the rest of it. And then we also want to be sure that our process includes interaction and connection. Interaction between ourselves and our participants, interaction between the participants themselves, interaction between the participants and whatever content we're working with. So if we're working with data, if we're working with a research article, we can do things specifically that help our participants interact with that content the same way we want them to interact with us as facilitators or with their peers as co-participants. And we want them to connect, right? We want them to experience connections with their own experiences, connections with other things they have seen, read, or heard, as well as connections to prior concepts we might have been talking about and connections to each other and to us. So that is kind of a process. And today, we're going to be seeing a lot of tools that can be used for the checking for understanding piece, for the check-in piece, and also for interaction. So there isn't, you're going to see a lot of different kinds of tools, again, some of which I think you've probably already heard of. And then there's not going to be, I think we're going to be doing more tools than you would necessarily do at one time in your own work with the people that you are supporting and working with. So a lot of you have heard of Padlet. Padlet is a digital space that can be set up in a number of ways. So one way it can be set up is just as a place where people can see what is available. They can like it, they maybe can comment on it, but they can't add anything to it. But you also have the option to provide a level of permission and access to your Padlet where everyone can comment, everyone can like, but everyone can also contribute. Padlets have a variety of ways that content can be organized. For the work we'll be doing today, I've chosen columns because that's the one that's the most organized in terms of categories of resources. But there are a number of ways that it can be organized. In addition, there are a number of ways to participate. So in a moment, I'm going to direct you to another slide that will actually push you to this Padlet directly. But first, I want to show you the Padlet and model it for you. Because you'll see that this is a growing and living document. So each time I have an opportunity to work with a group of leaders, we continue to add to this. This is actually only the second time that this particular Padlet has been shared with a group. So there is plenty of room left for your amazing ideas and resources and contributions. If you would like to add something to any of these categories, strategies to collect input, ideas, and resources, strategies for checking in with staff, strategies for engaging staff in content or learning, strategies for teacher leadership and fostering teacher leadership, then you would just click the plus. And once you click the plus, I want to draw your attention to something. The first line is the title. That will come out in bold. So it's a good idea, if possible, to type 1 or 2 words here and then put the rest of your information where it says write something. But if you don't, everything you type will just be big and bold if you choose to type it all in the title. But the other thing I'd like to draw your attention to is that you can easily share a link by clicking on the link. If you click on the 3 dots, you can do a number of things, including upload a file from your computer or a link. You will notice you can also capture video and add a video. You can record your voice. You can draw directly on the screen and submit that. So the reason I share this is because one of the key strategies that we want to use with our practitioners is also the same one we want practitioners to use with students. And that is to find a number of ways for students to share their thinking and give them options for sharing their thinking. And when possible, give them options for actually having their voice be what is in the room. And so I'm very favorable to tools that actually easily capture student voice and anyone else's voice for that matter. So again, if you want to add something, you just click on the plus underneath the column to which you want to add something, and then you are free to type, add links, or click the 3 dots and add even more things. So what I'm going to do now is back in the Pear Deck, I'm going to bring us to another slide. And before I do that, I'm going to bring us to another slide. So those of you who are in the Pear Deck with me, if you click where it says answer question, it will bring you directly to this Padlet. For those of you who were not able to join the Padlet, I'm going to take a second now and I'm going to grab the link and put it in the chat for you. Okay. And I'm going to give you just a couple of minutes to add any quick resources or ideas you already have for things that have been helpful for you in your work when it comes to engaging staff in a variety of ways. This is a living document, so you can also come back to it and add ideas and resources later. And you can also like or add comments to anything you see. Oh, thank you, Stephanie. And I'm watching it in real time, so as people are adding, and I can see what's being added. Thank you. And actually, Stephanie, if you want, you can edit that and you can add, if there's a direct link, like if it's an add-on and people need to get it from the from the Google Marketplace and so on, we can throw the link in there and then people will have a link right to it. You can just use when you edit, you should see the link icon available beneath what you typed. And you were probably already doing that. Thank you, Stephanie. Love it. All right, thank you. So again, this is a living document. If you come up with something later, or maybe it's on a different device than the one you're using, you're like, but I have the perfect resource, but it's a file and it's on my other computer. By all means, feel free to upload and share it. And that will be really appreciated by everybody. Thank you. Someone else is actually writing in something right now. Thank you so much. Yeah, I agree. I think sending notes has been really powerful, and the places where leaders are doing that, I'm seeing all over my threads where I have, all of us have a huge network, right, of educators, and so on all the threads that I'm seeing, educators and practitioners are really, really appreciating it, as well as all of our staff, right? We have a lot of staff really working so incredibly hard to make this work at all levels of our sites and districts that I think it seems like such a small gesture, and yet it ends up making such a huge difference. So really thank you for that idea of sending written notes to our staff, to our practitioners, to all the people who are doing this work. I like that. I did that too. You know what? Thank you for putting that up, Stephanie. I think it was one of the most successful things we did this summer was we actually had an ed camp and reached out, throughout the district to really encourage and support teachers to, put themselves out there and share their strategies. And the feedback was incredible. We will definitely be doing it again. Yeah, I really like that. Thank you. I will say I didn't do it in the traditional ed camp format, so that's true. We actually, I offered for them to propose, to have sessions to talk about and share strategy that's been working for them in distance learning. Gate offered support if they were nervous about presenting it and so on. And then we had a day where people could, choose the sessions and go to them live, and we recorded all of them and then turned that into an asynchronous learning opportunity for people who couldn't make it. So it wasn't strictly an ed camp because it didn't have that organic nature of everybody who attended first kind of sat down and figured out what they wanted to talk about today. But it was really successful, and it was probably, in my case, for my work, one of my bigger successes in terms of really fostering and supporting teacher leadership in our work. Thank you. Thank you for sharing, everybody. I really, really appreciate that. And one of the other things that I want to touch on a little bit, because it's really hard to do engagement without doing this, and I am back, by the way, in the Pear Deck, is social emotional learning, and of course, social emotional wellness and thank you, wellness and well-being, and the role that that plays in ensuring that people can engage, right? So we know that our teachers are really working hard to support the social emotional needs of our students and to support them in their own growth as they are learning about their own social emotional responses to each situation and how to manage those, and so on. But we also need to do the same for our practitioners when we have the opportunities to work with them. So the first thing to look at and to consider is just, what is social emotional wellness and how can it be learned? And it's interesting because this is new for all of us. This is something that we really, at least in my case, and I think in most of our cases, when we began our journey as professionals in education, this wasn't on the radar. This wasn't something, there were things we did that definitely support social emotional well-being, but we weren't studying what that means and how to foster it and how to promote growth in our own spheres with social emotional well-being. So this is something that we are learning as we are trying to do it and support it. A little bit like the situation we're in right now with distance learning and hybrid learning and so on, right? We're trying to lead in this work while we're still learning how to do it in a way that really represents high leverage practices. So one of the things that we can do is modeling some even small gestures, a little bit like what we just talked about a minute ago with the note cards. A lot of small gestures can make a really big difference if they become part of the routine of how we work with people in the room. So greeting and acknowledging people as they arrive. I missed that a little bit today, and I meant to have the participant list open, and I was used to my own Zoom where it dings, and it didn't ding, so I didn't think anybody was in there. And then I looked up and there were 6 people, and I was like, oh, I blew it. So greeting and acknowledging people as they arrive and using names. So you might have noticed that I've been calling out people as they participated in the Padlet, for example, if their name was included, because we really want to acknowledge people for who they are and how they see themselves. Checking in with staffs as a group, but also checking in with them individually, making it really clear that we do care for them as people in addition to caring for them in the role that they play in our system. Using the features of your tool. So those of you who are with us right at the beginning, we started with a chat feature. We had a few people who introduced themselves in the chat, and like Terry introduced herself, and we had people use the chat to communicate with me, like Janie did, to let me know that there was a problem. And then she introduced herself, and Sherry. And so we want to use the tools that we have available to us. And I know some of our systems are using Google tools, and some are using Zoom, and some are using Microsoft Teams, but all of those tools have things we can leverage in order to allow people to interact and engage with us. And then we can incorporate stress management techniques into the work we do. So I've given you on this slide a link to breathing exercises and a link also to centering and grounding techniques. I am particularly fond of item number 4 in that list. So I encourage you to take a look at that when you get a copy of the slides, and to take a look at a copy of the breathing exercises if that's something that resonates with who you are and how you work and what you would like to include. So another area to support us in our work is CASEL, the Collaborative for Academic and Social Emotional Learning. They have several focus areas. One of them focuses specifically on adult SEL. So I wanted to call that out for you today. And I've bulleted several things that are part of that focus area. I am particularly looking at a couple of things that I think we can do in our roles, such as creating the protected time for staff to regularly collaborate with each other. And the last one, ensuring that those who will be affected by decisions are actually included in decision-making processes, and that those teams are representative of the school community at large. So you can see all of the bullets there, but those for me personally, and each of us has to choose our own kind of areas of focus. Those are 2 areas of focus in my work right now. And I put on the next slide several resources to support work in social emotional learning. I have kind of a definition explanation from CASEL, a link for you to download their framework. And then I gave you 2 resources that I was hoping we would have time to look for today, and I'll show you how I wanted to work with them, but I don't think we'll have time given that there's only 5 minutes left. So we might come back to it if it turns out I get some time. But there's a district resource center for those of you who work at the district level, and that would probably also be appropriate at the county level, but maybe not. I do see that we have some county support here. And then for any school site administrators, there's a school-wide support and resources page. So I wanted to make sure you saw that you have both of those resources there. And then this is the one thing I couldn't get Pear Deck to embed properly. So what I have for you, look, some of you are in my slide deck and you joined right from there. That worked. What I have for you is what's called a Jamboard. I think a lot of us have seen Jamboards now. I'm going to put the link in the chat for you. And it has 2 frames. A frame is basically just a blank page. And you actually have full edit permission. Like if you wanted to, you could actually erase my instructions right now and replace them with your own, but I would ask you not to do that. And this is a less robust tool than Padlet, but there's a lot you can do with something as simple as a Jamboard, and your teachers are using Jamboards as well. But there's a couple of caveats to know. First of all, it is completely anonymous. And so students can post anything there and you wouldn't know who did it. So teachers really have to have already developed a strong community with a strong sense of norms that their student community has agreed to for how they're going to interact in these really dynamic online spaces. Because we would need the students to be able to take ownership of what they put there and take responsibility for what they put. But on the left-hand side, you have some tools. The 4th one down is a little sticky note tool. So if you had some ideas or connections, and yes, there is a pen tool so you can freehand draw. If you looked at the school guide for site administrators and had some ideas or examples or connections you wanted to share, you could either click on the sticky note and you have a choice of colors, and you could say, here is an example, and then whatever you want to say, and hit save. And it will always put it in this upper left corner, but you just grab it and move it. You can grab the lower dots, lower right or left, to resize. And if you didn't want to do it, you can delete it by just hitting the 3 dots and choosing delete. The other really easy way to share is the second to last item on the left is a text box tool. So that just gives you a blank text box, and you would just type, and then you can make it bigger or smaller, or you can make it, you can make it wider so it becomes one line. You can do whatever you need to do, and you can move it around. What I like to do is have people contribute on something like this first, and then go back to it and use the freehand pen tool or the shapes tool, the one that looks like a circle, to put stars, question marks, or circle items that resonate with them, or in some way kind of annotate the ideas that people have placed on the board. If you look at the top center, it has another frame. It says 1 out of 2. So if you hit the right arrow, there's another frame where district administrators can share their connections, ideas, and resources from that work. So this is one way you can engage staff, is by providing them a distinct space to kind of break out into groups that represent their areas of expertise or interest, letting them read through a document or a resource or watch a video, and then collect their thoughts and ideas and share them. You can upload a background and put actually nicer looking backgrounds on them if you wanted to, and provide an organizational structure with like a space designated for sharing certain types of things. You can do a lot with that. And I'm back in the Pear Deck now in our last minute. On the last few slides, I was hoping to use Pear Deck right here. You could use your pencil tool and circle everything you've already used yourself. And then, and I know we are at the end of our time and you need to get to your next session. So I don't know that we'll have time. Oh, someone highlighted one, thank you. Oh, we do have some highlights going on. Awesome, thank you. So some people are using Pear Deck to kind of show me what they've already done. You have now participated in Pear Deck, by the way, but you might not have tried it yourself. And all of those underlying things are links, and they will bring you to a support document if I have one, or to the page itself. And then I have some additional promising tools with support documents linked on that slide. And then finally, we were going to end by giving a shout out to someone you appreciate. So I'm going to end this session so that it sends you your today's 11/23 summit. There we go. And it's going to publish, and it will send you a link to the Pear Deck. And return to Google Slides. There we go. I want to thank you for joining us today. I'm going to stop this recording any second, but you can reach me actually really easily. I just realized I forgot to put my email on this, but I will add my email to the slides. So when you look at the slides, you'll see my email. You can reach me really easily via email. Sorry, just trying to get to the end here. There we go. Let me put that slide up. At naditz@sanjuan.edu. And I'm also available on Twitter. Actually, that's incorrect. Go me. I had to redo my Twitter account. And so, all right. Thank you again so much. And if you are interested in the bit.ly to the slides before you get the Pear Deck takeaways, you can see the bit.ly right here. So you can grab a picture of that if you need to. And these are also linked in the session resources. Have a great day, everybody.